Big news out of Giga Nevada. Yes, the progress is moving as quickly as we expected, and frankly, a little quicker than I expected. This is all very big news, and we are going to have a look at it and tell you what it means. I'm joined by Mark from the Tesla Life, my good buddy who does great work, except that sometimes he has me on the show, really brings things down a notch, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. What a week, Mark. What a week.
Yes, indeed.
In Nevada and elsewhere. We've got this. This is... Now, again, I have permission to play the video. I will not play the video because I want you guys to go and watch it. And when you're there, leave him a thumbs up. Tell him that you appreciate his work. We all need to get paid. So this is... showing respect, showing appreciation, all that. Let's start with the obvious. Yeah, the first section, the roof is done. This section has been sealed off for a while. Next section as well. You can see the doors are going in along the side and the roof material is going on. Last week, this last section in the top there was just starting to get some roof decking, and you can see it's closing up. But that's not exciting, is it? Surely there's going to be more exciting stuff than that, right? And is a big door. I mean, that's kind of exciting. Oh, what in the heck is this?
It's another server farm, isn't it?
Oh, honestly, this one would be underground, so it would make more sense. Do you know what this is?
I do not know what that is.
Look at how deep it is. This is footings. If you go back and look at the footage from the construction of Giga Texas, you will see exactly this kind of thing going in. This is going to be stamping. I mean, it could be casting, but the shape is wrong. This is stamping because you need very big, very heavy, very serious footings, and these will extend up to grade. So the foundation goes that far into the ground because these stamping machines send out a lot of force. The Fremont factory has the largest stamping press in North America, and it is so powerful that USGS can pick up the tremors from across the bay. And they're like, well, this earthquake looks rhythmic.
Not an earthquake at all.
Not an earthquake at all. It is a tremor. We are going to have a conversation. Now, this part here, by the way, this is not concrete. This is mud. It's still a type of concrete, but it's not called concrete. It's just a base layer that you put down. You put the concrete on top of that. And then you see they're putting in the rebar around it. You can see the rebar starting to go, and you can see the shadows of little spiky hairs up there. So what does this tell us? I'm going to say this tells us that they're going to be doing more of the initial component manufacturing in-house than previously expected.
Yeah, because when they started to build this, we were looking for those footings and they weren't to be found. So we were kind of thinking that maybe they were going to have them produced elsewhere and shipped to site. But
yes,
this makes a lot more sense since Tesla is a do-it-yourself company in a lot of ways. It would make sense if they're building these major components for the semi themselves.
Do it yourself is what you need when you're going to be doing extreme scale. If you're just assembling, if you're making, 50 trucks a year, 100 trucks a year, great. Purchase them from Iveco and put your own hydrogen fuel cells in them, Trevor. But if you're actually going to be producing at volume, you need to do it. Now, Zanegler is out there at least every week, sometimes twice, but he noticed something new, not this. He did notice something new about this, but that's not the important part. What he noticed is this. These cranes here are carrying something. Why, that's equipment. And it's a blink if you miss it sort of thing. He's out there for a good hour and he doesn't see it, and then he does. And you just see him taking it inside the big doors. And this means that, yeah, the factory is getting outfitted.
Yeah, because as of last week, we got the information that the concrete floors were being poured at the time. So once you've got those floors in place, you can start arranging equipment.
Yes. And we did get a number of comments helpfully informing that chemistries of concrete have changed over the years such that within hours, if not days, you've got sufficient hardness to start doing something, and that they will, of course, continue to cure over time. It's really an Giga Texas, where my information was more valuable, because on those footings, they were going to be placing tremendous weight in the form of, 80, 100-foot concrete columns, which for those of you scoring along at home are heavy. Yeah, so that's good information. Head over to Zane's channel, Henrik Zane, and see what he's up to. And yeah, this building is screaming along. I reiterate, production in first half 2025. I don't think it'll be first quarter, because there's a lot of moving pieces to get going in harmony, as it were.
Yeah.
So what we should do then, of course, is answer questions. As you guys know, we answer questions from last week's video at this point in the video every week. And I always, remind you that we do that. I don't know what's so funny, but they would need good ventilation in there. I assume most of the equipment is still diesel. That's a good point. We were discussing why they were doing work with walls open and all that. And yes, if the building was completely sealed, a lot of that equipment is diesel. Thoughts, Mark?
Definitely the ventilation has to be in place in order to work. So whether it's a wall that's pushed out, or of course, I'm sure they have some sort of monitors that's keeping track of the oxygen levels and the carbon monoxide levels, and it's making sure that nobody's going to pass out while they're constructing it. So it's either actual equipment, fans, ventilation equipment, or it's walls knocked out and monitoring equipment, keeping everyone safe.
It might just be me, because I'm a big fan. Hey, has Tesla thought about partnering with truck stops? Loves, Pilot, TA, etc. Thoughts on that?
I believe Tesla's reached out to all of them in the beginning because they knew how the supercharger network benefited from some partners that would already have land in ideal locations that trucks frequent, and all those locations have that. Now, none of those deals have been signed or promoted, but I know GM has signed a deal with Pilot, but it's not for electric trucks. It's for electric car charging. But there are a number of different Pilot locations out there that not only serve trucks, but they also serve the driving public. So that's a good win for them. But as for Tesla, they have not announced anything. So I've got to believe that no one had come up with the deal that would work for both parties.
I think that's fair to say. I would be very surprised if Tesla hadn't already reached out to all of these companies years ago, because even though it was too soon, and even though there are practical obstacles to what they can get done in a partnership like this, you don't know what the interest level is, and you at least need to gauge that. You might find that one of these companies says, look, we'll spend whatever it takes to be the first one. And if that happens, you jump at it. Here's the problem. I've had people say, well, they could, just convert a truck stop. Just do it. Just easy. Just do it. Look, these are megawatt chargers. A megawatt is like 20 houses of power. It's a whole subdivision of power. Now you want to have 20, 30, 50 stalls. You need a small town of power. And getting that takes time. It is tricky. And you're not going to put it in without customers lined up already. You need to know what your utilization is going to be. It's not like a gas pump where you just put it in and just, assume trucks will show up. These trucks aren't really on the road as much yet. Standards need to be established, all that. It's great. It will happen. I'm sure the conversations are taking place. They have not taken place yet. Do we have any information about Gambit Energy? I think it got absorbed into Tesla, but I would love some new information. Gambit Energy was the first Tesla stationary storage power pilot that they did in the US in-house. It was in Dallas area. It was, I think, outside of Dallas. And the idea is they just put up a bunch of mega packs. The sign, all the permits, all the signage said Gambit Energy. And when you're out there, it was clearly a Tesla property with Tesla employees doing Tesla things. And no, I don't have any information on it. What I've seen is that, yes, it has been absorbed into greater Tesla, and that unless they choose to break out the numbers, we won't see them.
That is the case.
It is the case. People don't want to live in Reno. No problem. Optimus won't mind it a bit.
Release the fleet of robots. Exactly.
I mean, I'm answering this because it has a question mark, but the Benson bad boy is right. It's correct. Today is not the day for Optimus deployment, certainly not in a factory like this, but that day is coming, and it'll be a good use case for it. Regarding servicing brake pads, does FSD use the brake pads? It seems to brake harder than when I drive mastering regen. I would agree. I just finished this week. I've done 28 hours of driving, and FSD will brake harder than I do because it doesn't quite anticipate on the horizon the way I do. So sometimes you'll come up on traffic a little hotter than I would. So in that regard, yeah, it'll actually flex the brakes a bit to keep them rust free in ways that I might not.
I think it's more than just trying to keep the pads rust free. You're right. I think it's a visual problem that is not quite solved yet. It'll go through multiple iterations, and it'll get better, just like all the other aspects of FSD have gotten better over time.
You know, I was on a drive the other day, and I managed to shave some time off my journey by taking an off ramp at about 70 miles an hour. All my stuff flying through I'm like, I had to disengage. And I think the message that I recorded was, what in the hell are you doing? But I don't remember. I don't know if I had the presence of mind to say off ramps, probably not the NASCAR track you think it is, but this isn't Talladega. So anyway, and you can tell because we turned right instead of left. It's a very pretty straightforward.
There's no off ramps that have banks on them, right?
A camber, so you just slide right off. Any updates on the lithium battery and cathode and anode production? I assume we mean the cathode building in Texas, and I've sent out some feelers to find out if I can find anything out. If you mean the lithium plant, I'm going to be making a video about that hopefully this week. I don't have any new information, Mark.
I do not know of any new information besides the initial groundbreaking that we saw, and of course the start of building. We've been seeing some drones out there every once in a while that are taking in the construction.
Indeed. Do you think Tesla Bot will ease the staffing challenges at the semi factory?
I don't think Tesla Bot's at that position yet.
I agree.
We're way before the game where you just deploy a robot to do a number of jobs that people assign them to. This is an ongoing build for Tesla Bot. There's going to be a lot of little levels it's going to have to be able to perform before it can get into full-fledged, hey, grab 3 bots, put them in the car, drive them to station 5, and tell them to put widgets together. It's going to be some time.
If you guys aren't watching my series on Cybercab, because I got to see it this week, I got to talk to engineers. I've got a lot of insights to share. Please check that out. One of the things we learned is that you remember production hell with the robots trying to build Model 3 and how they couldn't. Well, the problem was that you were taking an assembly line designed for humans and trying to jam robots into it. So with the Cybercab, what they've done is designed it from the ground up to be producible without human input, so that it can be entirely done, not by Optimi, but by as industrial robots, the kind that you're used to seeing in car factories. So it is greatly simplified, will not require humans nor humanoid bots. How many years have we been waiting for the semi? And the answer is 2017. But who's we? I haven't been waiting for it. Pepsi hasn't been waiting for it. They've had it. So if you want to get your Frito-Lay's delivered electric style, that's something that's been happening in parts of California for years. I don't know. It's later than I expected.
I've seen comments about people that obviously have put down a reservation for the truck. They seem to be maybe a 1 or 2 truck operator, and I would caution them: don't be too quick to ask for the truck for you to take one over, because again, we're going through multiple iterations of the product. There are still going to be bumps along the way that they're going to iron out. And I would hate for you to have only 2 trucks, one of them being the new semi, and for whatever reason, it has to be off the road for 2 days as something's been updated or changed. So let's make sure that the product is nailed down sufficiently before we start giving it to small-time operators.
Love it. That is exactly right. If you've got 100 trucks and 3 of them are the new Volvo or Freightliner or Tesla, and an issue arises, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to put you out of business. So this will be the last one. It's pretty far down. But that's unfortunate because I think it's a fantastic question. It is. Not to be negative for my question. My question is simply, why are we still pushing freight on roads? There should be nothing larger than a delivery van in most areas. Railroads create a durable backbone for transport. So why are we doing so much road transport and not so much rail transport? Can't we add more rail?
Oh, you can definitely add more rail. It's just the cost of adding more rail. Back in the days when the interstate system started to expand, back in the 60s, the expansion of rail and rail spurs really stagnated. And what we've seen today is that more and more rail is being taken out from spur lines that run into cities or run into industrial parks. More and more of that is being eliminated. So I agree. Rail is a great form of transport. It's a solid backbone, but the problem is it's just not in all the areas that trucks can run. And when you're time sensitive and you need to get product at a certain place at a certain time based on your contract, rail is not the way to go unless you're shipping vast quantities.
Rail is expensive. And the question I would ask is, which neighborhood should we tear down to put in more rail? I'd argue, let's not tear down neighborhoods. So the trick becomes, well, then where do you put the rail? Do you put it outside of town? Then you still need the trucks to get it into town. You've added time and delays at the depots. There was a proposal years ago that was adding like hundreds of millions of dollars to expand rail capacity in the Northeast. And I saw people who didn't understand rail transport saying, well, why do they spend anything? Why don't they just make the trains taller? So, well, because the bridges and the tunnels are the wrong size, this money would allow them to make them taller. Well, why don't they just make the trains longer? Another great question, because the depots are so short that when they pull into the depot, they would be blocking 5, railroad crossings. That money would go to expand the size of the depot so they could make the trains longer. So it ain't no free lunch.
Nope.
Rail is effective, but it is inflexible. And in the US, the rail companies have done a real terrible job at looking into the future. I volunteered for a railroad museum once, and I helped them put together their walking tour and all that. And there was a problem where kids would come and throw rocks and break the windows at the repair yard. They had their own little repair shop. And I said, put up security cameras. No budget. I said, put up fake security cameras. They said, no budget. I said, I will buy fake security cameras. And they said, look, it's all been proposed. The board of directors, all retired train engineers, have said no. And I was like, right. That's because these people live by railroad, son. It's the way of the future. So, guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? If you have questions, leave them. Would you? Could you do that for me? Check out Mark. See what he's up to over there on the Tesla Life. It is a life we are all living. Some happier than others. Everybody else, like, subscribe, stay tuned and juicy. And I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, when you're riding the rails.